Welcome back to OneOps User Training Level 1 Beginner. We've gotten to the stage where we are now in business. We're talking about operation in OneOps. So our application that we've defined as an assembly in design and then specified the operating requirements by creating environments is now up and running, and we can have a look at it, we can maintain it, we can see how we can update it, can make changes to it, and basically keep the application up and running and have a look at it, how it performs. So what we ended up doing last time was we created different environments in the transition phase, and we committed and deployed these changes. Now we are going to be able to inspect those environments in operations. We can have a look at the summary and aspects such as status, notification, and platforms in it, but also look at graphs, the health, running procedures, and specific search. Inspecting our assemblies as they're adapted and running in operation is as easy as clicking on the operations button in the top navigation as well as the left-hand navigation. Now we can select which specific environment we want to check out, and for example, if we go to the dev environment here, we see more information about it. We see the summary as well as the graph that allows us to select all the different components in it. We get some information about the health. If we select all the different statuses, we can see all the different components, and we can see more information about their status, such as IP numbers and locations and so on. We can also have a look at procedures, and we can search within this specific environment. If we want to go to another environment in the same operations phase, we can go on the left-hand navigation here and click on Broad. And we see the same assembly as it is running in redundant mode now in the prod environment. So checking out this in the graph will show us the redundant mode pretty simply, because now we have two Tomcats, two compute, two Java, and so on components, which is a manifestation of the fact that we configured the redundant mode. In a specific environment in operation, we will see the deployed instances in the specific environment, and we will have operation-specific views and features, such as the ability to perform actions. So let's have a quick look. We're going into exploring the web app server platform, and now within the web app server platform we are having a look at the compute component, and in this list now we see that there's actual manifested instances. So there's real servers here running, and we can perform actions on them. So we could, for example, go here and perform a reboot, repair, a power cycle, or we could also do that individually for an individual server. Now let's have a closer look at the compute component, and we'll inspect its summary and configuration. We'll also find out a bit about monitors, notifications, procedures, and logs. If we select a specific compute here in a specific environment, here prod in operations, we can have a closer look. We can see summary information about the compute, including its availability. We can choose to perform specific actions such as rebooting them, repairing, power cycling, or just getting a status, or also flagging it for a replace with any further new changes coming in the design from the environment or straight from the design itself. We can also see here a bunch of information about the attributes and inspect things such as the configuration for this specific compute. Monitors are used to inspect the current availability and behavior, and notifications can then keep you up to date on that, and you can see that nicely here. Procedures can be configured, and you can also access the logs. Looking at the OS component of the same platform in the production environment, we can see here some more interesting monitors such as CPU or load and memory. As a small example on how a design change can be farmed out all the way into your operation, we'll look into the measures that are necessary to be able to SSH into a specific compute. In a nutshell, we will configure a user component and add an SSH authorization key. We will commit that design, pull the design to a specific environment, and then commit and deploy this environment. So in operation, we will then be able to SSH into that compute. From our operations, we navigate back to the design of the platform web app server, and we are going to have a look at the user component and add a new component. We are now looking at the user component and we're going to add a new one. We're going to provide a name for this user component as well as a username. And then importantly for our SSH access, we have to configure the authorized key. So we're going to just add one. I have added my SSH key that I can get from my id_rsa.pub file in my home directory, since I have SSH already configured, and I can save this new component now. The new component was saved, and again we have the usual flow of being able to review our changes, which in this case was just the addition of the user. And we are gonna be happy with that, so we're gonna commit that, adding app user. We committed that design. Now we have to navigate to transition. In transition, let's try it in the dev environment. We now see that a new release is available and we can pull that design. So if we pull that design, we're gonna get the user added. The design has been successfully pulled into this environment, and we therefore have a change and that we can again review, which is our new user, and we can commit and deploy this, which will bring us a deployment plan. In this case, just setting the new user, and we are okay with this deployment plan, and we're gonna farm this out, and in operation we should be able to SSH into that compute next. Our deployment is now complete, as we can see here in the operations view of this specific environment. And now we can inspect the compute component to see the IP number and SSH into that machine. Here's an IP number. Now we should be able to SSH into this server by just using the IP number, for example, here, and the app user. Sure enough, we are right in. And we can, for example, inspect our opt Tomcat7 directory, go to the web apps directory, and see that there is the pet store link established, which runs our pet store application. We see that the pet store is correctly linked into the web apps folder of Tomcat7. So we should actually be able to access this application running. Inspect the fully qualified domain name component and its configuration, or the compute and use its IP number, and access the pet store application at the /pet store context. Sure enough, our pet store is up and running at the domain that we found out via FQDN at port 8080/jpetstore, and everything seems to be nicely operational. So to reiterate, what have we achieved in our operations? We have managed to commit and deploy the application from transition and have a look at it up and running. We can monitor it, we can control what's going on, we can reboot VMs, we can even change the configuration of an environment or in design and farm it back out to operation. We can have a look at the configuration, at the metrics, the logs, and perform manual actions such as reboot, repair, and other aspects. So in a nutshell, we were really able to design an application, define where it should be running, and then get it all the way to running. Next, we will look at some further advanced features of the user interface and beyond what we've learned so far.